Having just been in February, March, and seeing the hustle bustle of Tel Aviv, there was a quiet silence that actually filled the space. When they tell you immediately about what to do when the sirens go off, you realize that these things, 90 seconds to get here and do this, these things are part of the daily life of everyone who lives there in Israel. We met with the families of hostages, and it'll rip your heart out when you hear the stories of 3-year-olds whose parents were killed in front of her, whose siblings were hiding in a closet. When you watch the videos, so one of the things when we met with Netanyahu, when we met with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, when we met with the various ministers across the Israeli government, when we met with the IDF, they each showed us the videos. And you look back at the Holocaust and you see how people tried to hide the atrocities that occurred once they were caught. These evil, barbaric human beings, if you can even call them that, wore GoPro cameras on their heads. So for all of the people out there, and to the news media, please, please keep telling this story. When people believe that it didn't happen, when you have a child who comes home from college and says, I don't think that's the way it went, I've seen it. I have seen children begging for their lives, shot in front of their parents. I have seen kids begging for their parents' lives as they set them on fire. I have seen the pictures of women with their clothes ripped off, raped, and then slaughtered. I have seen them stand on a man's head and cut it off. We had a hearing this week in front of the Appropriations Committee, and Secretary Blinken told a story that needs to be told over and over again. It was about his time on the ground, his boots on the ground, about a family of 4 who was eating breakfast that morning, October 7th. Father, mother, son, daughter, the father whose eyes were gouged out, the little boy whose fingers were cut off, the daughter whose foot was cut off, the mother killed, them all murdered, and then these barbaric terrorists then cleared them out of the way, sat down at their breakfast table, and finished their meal. This is disgusting. It is despicable. We must tell this story. And I would say my takeaway from all of it is the evil that is Hamas. It is beyond comprehension. It is something that I didn't think or want to believe that human beings were capable of. One of my colleagues said, I remember after 9/11, my daughter asking me, Dad, are we gonna get the bad guys and are we safe? And one of the ministers said, let me stop you right there. The difference in this and 9/11 is that when we woke up the next morning, the enemy was not oceans away. The enemy was literally next door. And when we answer that question, those are the same questions that my daughter has asked me. And he said, my wife was trying to tell me where she was gonna hide my daughter if this happened again. And he said, the point of the Jewish state is so that the Jewish people never have to hide again. And so he said, I looked at my daughter and I said, baby, yes, we are going to get the bad guys. But when you have to answer that question, are we safe? In order for Israel to continue in peace, prosperity, and flourish, we must eradicate Hamas. Because the men and women in Israel cannot tuck their children in at night. With Hamas 2 days ago saying, we will do this again and again and again and again until it is eradicated. This is why you cannot have a ceasefire. You must eradicate the evil that is Hamas now. The importance of this moment, not only for the Jewish people across the globe, but Israel, became very clear to me, listening and looking in their eyes and talking about what is ahead.
J.H. Israel and the National Leadership Center in the city of Ariel has been given the greatest opportunity, and I just wanted to share it with you today, hot off the press. But we have been given an extraordinary situation where the Ministry of Defense and Israel's Ministry of Education and Ministry of Health are working alongside the National Leadership Center to facilitate and to host the families that have been affected inside this horrific war. As you might imagine, there is not a family inside of the state of Israel today that has not been deeply impacted by what's taking place. And there is a great need to rebuild the nation, to restore families, to bring hope, to heal where there's been trauma. So alongside our programming called Take 5 Becoming a Leader, that discovery of life purpose, why am I here? We're going to be bringing the IDF soldiers. We're going to be bringing families, fathers and husbands and wives who've lost their husbands and fathers, and children affected most traumatically by this war. And this is being done intentionally with Israel's Ministry of Defense and Ministry of Education. We're looking forward to the role that we're going to get to play. Alongside that, we're bringing in trauma counselors to work alongside our trainers inside of this situation. Why are we being given this opportunity and not some other leadership center inside of Israel? Well, there's really several reasons. One is we've had this long, successful career with Israel's Ministry of Defense, training the IDF. Over 100,000 people, Israelis, have gone through our program. And so we've got an enduring relationship that's had successful outcomes. That's why they're turning to us. Number two, we've got the state-of-the-art national leadership platform and experiential learning environment that is so conducive for bringing families together, soldiers together in their battalions, units of police who are so engaged in this war. And number three, because we have a spiritually conducive environment, trainers, leaders there that have opened the way for God to do that mysterious work that He does in people's lives.